Hello everyone and welcome to today's interview. I'm Alamdar, Upper Kalama student of the high school campus. So we have the pleasure of speaking with Mr. McCoy, a renowned coach, consultant, and trainer specializing in resilience. Mr. McCoy, thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you to be here.
Okay, so my first question is, could you tell us a bit about what led you to focus your work on coaching, consulting, and training in resilience?
Well, that's a good question. Well, a long time ago, I had a health challenge at 16, 17. And in my family, it's okay to feel stuck. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, but it was against the family rules, if you will, to stay there. So when something big happened, talk to your mom, talk to your dad, talk to aunties, uncles, grandparents. What should you do next? Well, sometimes with good intention, medical professionals say things like, well, there's nothing you can do. Well, in my family, that's almost an illegal statement. You're not allowed to say there's nothing you can do. You can feel like that for a couple of days, even a couple of weeks. So this chronic illness of mine was quite painful. And the doctor, the gastroenterologist with good intention said, well, there's nothing you can do, Michael. It's a chronic illness. Well, again, my family, you're not allowed to say that. So I had a new university opening up near me. So when I got old enough to drive the car, I went there, no internet back then, with dimes, nickels, quarters, a whole lot of them. And I went to the research librarian, and a good research librarian is as good or better than Google. And I said, I've got this chronic illness. I'm looking for what it is and how to manage it. Oh, Michael, stuff's just come in the last 6 months, all about your chronic illness. And you're not the only one that's interested. My family's got issues too. And so I found information, no cures, but it said if you do the following things, you could have 20% less chronic illness issues. That's a big number. And it could be 30% cheaper to take care of. That's a really big number. So that got me fascinated. And that brings me back full circle to my family's belief systems, which is a big part of resiliency, is that it's not what happens to you, it's what you do about it that makes the difference. So resiliency doesn't cure things necessarily, but it helps you deal with them in a safer, sometimes happier, often having a higher quality experience and outcome. So my dad was my baseball coach for 6 out of the 7 years that I played softball. I had a great grade 9 physical education coach who was very good at coaching me physically to help me gain body confidence. And I took martial arts for 4 years with a sensei master, Lauren, who had studied 2 martial arts. And he was also good at helping me develop my body confidence. So when it came time for me to make career choices, it was like people that have really impacted my life were good coaches and trainers. So I think that's what I want to be. So that's what got me started.
All right, great answer. Thank you for giving answer. Okay, what inspired you to focus on coaching, consulting, and training in resilience?
Well, resilience starts with, in a big way, how have you allowed life to define you? So that starts from the day we're conceived. And the day we're born, it gets more powerful. And our parents, our loving ones in our life, our grandparents, aunties, uncles, a teacher, my grade 1 teacher, changed the course of my education. In grade 1, she within 3 weeks figured out that I had some special gifts and some large learning challenges. And she didn't write a note to my parents that would be typical back when I was 6 years old saying, Michael's kind of stupid in this area and he's pretty good or smart in this area. No, she said, Michael has some challenges in these 3 areas and school will be hard on him because of that. But Michael has exceptional gifts in these areas that will help him do well in life outside of school. So just encourage him to do his best until he's finished school, whatever that is, and just get it done. Wow. was I ever blessed to have a teacher who didn't say, because of my learning challenges, stupid, 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 not so smart, not so smart, not so. No, she said I had challenges. I did. I still do. But I had social emotional skills and gifts way above average. So they didn't balance out, but one made the rest of life much easier. So that got me started when I got to be a teenager and reflected back to Miss Patton in grade one. Instantly, within 3 weeks, seeing that Michael had these three issues. Oh, Michael's got all these other gifts in the classroom and the playground. He's really good at it. So I was blessed to have that sort of influence in my life outside of my family as well.
All right, great answer. Thank you so much for giving answer. So, can you explain what resilience means in simple term?
Yes, in simple terms, resiliency is about when life happens, it's normal to shrink away, to back off. It's a safety response. However, for many things in life, if we stay in safety response backed up, we'll never get back to getting things done or having a life that we deserve if we stay stuck back here. So resiliency is about stretching into our discomfort zones to learn a new skill, to learn a new process and some skills. So my example is me learning the piano at 11 or 12 years old. Boy, did I sound awful for a long time. And then suddenly, after a couple of years, dun 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 started to be dun 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 dun. And after 6 years, by then I was in high school. My friends are like, "Wow, you play really good." Well, I played better than many of my friends, but my gifts were not technical skills. Mine were performing skills where I could just play it a little smoother, a little faster. And people said, "You should earn a living doing this." Well, I found out years later that no, I was a good piano teacher, which I did for a while, but perform like famous keyboardists of the day of the 70s and 80s, no. But that's okay, because being resilient, piano playing stretched my horizons. It taught me I could learn something that was difficult, and if I stayed and persevered, stuck to it, I could go from awful to adequate to not bad to, oh, I'm pretty wonderful. So people started inviting me to their house for seasonal gifts and events where I would play seasonal songs that got even the grumpy 3-year-old and the grumpy 87-year-old to sit at the piano with me. And I'd play and I'd say, "Hit those keys," and they'd hit the keys and they'd smile. And the other one, "Hit those keys," and we'd play 3 people at a time. So my social emotional skills became very valuable to help people that weren't happy in life to have moments of joy. So resiliency is about stretching into discomfort zones to be safer long term as we learn things.
All right, great answer. Thank you so much for giving answer. Okay, what experience have prepared you for this role, and how will you contribute to our team's success?
Great question. Well, I had the chronic illness issue. That really got me to understand that sometimes when things seem really overwhelming, if you go and look and ask, it's surprising what answers you'll get. So as the librarian researcher said, no cures, but 20% less symptoms, 1/5 less symptoms in intensity and frequency, huge. My grade one teacher, positive and negative. She said my negatives weren't negatives. She said they were my challenges to do my best. And my positives will make a significant difference in the rest of my life. Perspective. And then fast forward, I had a 7-year fight with 2 battles of cancer. Well, I decided to take Miss Patton's advice, my grade one teacher. It was a challenge and a threat. Was I scared? Oh, yeah. Big tears. But I also knew to ask for help. I phoned 197 people. And it was like, "Hey, it's Michael. Sometimes we hadn't talked for days, sometimes weeks, sometimes a few months. But at one point in my life and now, you were important to me. Here's what I'm going through. Don't want money. Don't want stuff. I'd like a prayer or a note. Tell me something that's good going on in your life. Maybe you just passed an exam in your case. Maybe if I had phoned you, if we knew each other then, what's going on at school? How's the family? What's something exciting? What'd you just learn that's good for you? How'd you do in the last exam? Send me a note about what's going on positive in your life. So by the end of that 6 months first fight, because I ended up having cancer in 4 locations the first time, I got 400 plus notes, letters, a few photos, and it was spectacular because I get emotional, but each one gave me insight into something positive in people's lives. So the man from the shipping and receiving department in the big company I work with, Michael, last week we set a record in productivity. Last week we set a record in how many units we shipped out. Sales is booming. We can't wait to get you back. But business is really moving. And our safety record is still perfect. So I was proud to be part of the team, but it was really awesome to get that note, to be remembered. But I asked for help. And now something I mentioned, my dad, when I was 26 and got this diagnosis, my mother calls me when he's at work. Please give your dad something to do. He's feeling sad, angry, and hopeless that his boy is sick. And he said more than one time, it's not fair that my boy is sick and might die. I'm supposed to be the one he buries in 50 years from now, not the other way around. So I got really calm, thought about it. My dad worked for a giant multinational that had intranet, satellite uplinks. So he comes home from work and he calls me, as he did every night. Dad, I have a job for you. I need help. You got all those satellite intranet connections, right? Yes. And by the way, Pakistan was on the list. I want you to tell them all, send them an email that Michael, your son, wants prayers for peace and healing. Now, notice I asked for peace and healing. Forgot to ask for pain management. Within 2 weeks, Dad calls, son, you're in mosques, temples, churches, revival halls, gospel halls. Revival halls and gospel halls are very specific, to my knowledge, to the U.S., where there's a lot of singing and praise worship, some book of faith talk, but a lot of singing. And he said, you're in 67 of them around the world. Pakistan, Australia, New Zealand, Houston, Atlanta, Georgia, United Kingdom, you name it. If Kodak has got a plant there or an office there, you're being prayed for. And honest to gosh, I felt lifted up. My eyes are wet right now. So being resilient, ask for help in acceptable, reasonable, responsible, respectful terms that don't overwhelm people. It's amazing what can come back when you ask. And that helps the team. Ask the team, what do they need? What can you do to provide it as the team leader or one of the team members?
Very, very amazing answer. Thank you for giving answer. Okay, how do you help people build resilience in their lives?
Very good question. To help people be more resilient in their life, it's called a mindset or your beliefs and values. And so if my grade 1 teacher, Miss Patton, had said, Michael, your spelling, your grammar, your punctuation, your handwriting, your printing, it's atrocious. You're a terrible student. You're just, she wasn't harsh, but she could have been harsh, because back in the early 60s in my school system, the odd teacher was harsh. My grade 2 teacher was a nasty, nasty person. Lots of the kids cried every week because she was nasty. Miss Patton, she helped what they call frame my situation. Here's your challenges. Here's what you're really good at. Here's your assets. These are better than these. These are frustrating. Do your best. Keep practicing. Don't give up. But also know you've got all these positives. So mindset, attitude, beliefs about how have you allowed to define yourself? And at every age, we should check on that every few weeks, because marketing and salespeople, and that's marketing's my background, their job is to get you feel less than about yourself. So if you just bought their product, you'll feel better about yourself. Now, on occasion, here's my ergonomic mouse. I have big hands. I read that that mouse would fit my big hand, so no more cramps when I use the mouse for 4 hours a day. So yes, they marketed, but yes, it's applicable and it increases the quality of my life and my productivity. So not everything that's marketed to us is just about making us feel better. It's actually sometimes useful. So mindset, attitude, belief about self. Number one, process. How do we frame everything? My chronic illness, at first, I framed it as something helpless and hopeless that I couldn't do anything about. And then I remember my parents and my grandparents saying, no such thing as impossible 100%. Can be 99.999% impossible, but even if you get it 0.001% under control, you're starting to win. So mine's, how do you frame it? When I got told when I was in sales, business development, that customer won't talk to us, I took it as a personal challenge. Oh, really? Somebody in our company 30 years ago didn't treat his father very well and was rude and nasty? That's deeply unfortunate. How do I frame my appointment with him? You know what? I'm just going to go in and find out what he says. I go in, present my business card. Hi, I'm Michael. I'd like to get your business. What do we do to talk about? Leave. Your company's not allowed on my property. Whoa. Angry still 30 years later. Okay. I phoned my manager, phone a friend, phone my former trainer. Here's what he said. What should I say? And my former manager instantly said, wow, Michael, that's profound. I want you to go in and ask for the head cashier who's in a position of responsibility. It was a big pharmacy, independent, but big. Say, when you talk to, not his real name, Mr. Jones, say that Michael from XYZ apologizes for the nasty behavior of somebody 30 years ago to your father. Has he ever hired someone that disappointed him? Because we are very disappointed that somebody that represented us did so badly. And then he said, don't go back for months. So that's framing the situation in a respectful manner, but also trying to open the door psychologically to get discussion started. And I'm happy to say, by the time I left that piece of territory for business development, the next guy got the business within a year. So that was a 5-year process. But after 30 years of not being talked to and not giving us business, we got 100% of the business back. So framing is really important. And what I did to get the business back is called reframing. I saw the challenge and the anger as an opportunity for me to get better communication skills, better listening skills, asked others for help on what to say and how to behave for process. And it took a long time, but we got that couple $100,000 in business back. So pre-framing is, this is a challenge. He's angry at us. But I can't go in there ready to defend and be angry. That's inappropriate. It was my company 30 years ago that made a mistake through that individual, our representative. So I'll frame it as a lesson to learn things. And then I'll practice through pre-framing, going in. And then after it's over, I'll reframe it again, saying, so what worked, what didn't work? Well, my first approach didn't work, but I knew it might not work, but I wanted to see what his state of mind was. What was his feelings towards us still? It was 10 out of 10 anger. So pre-framing, planning in advance, what are the positive and negatives that could happen? Framing, you're in the moment. I've practiced this. It's like with you today. I expected to meet a really smart, intelligent gentleman. And it's true. There you are. And reframing, what can I learn afterwards? Well, your viewers don't know it, but I have a technical issue where my camera wasn't coming on today. So I'm on my phone instead. But that's okay. I just went, 3 tries to get the computer to work. It didn't. I will have to look at it later. We got to get going here. Time's important. So pre-framing, framing, and reframing. Then there's the other types of skills at a personal level or a corporate level. And that's what I did with the business development and my health with my cancer. Do you have the problem, or does the problem own you? When I first had my chronic health issue, The problem owned me. 6 months. I cried. I was angry. All normal responses. But again, in the back of my head, there's my parents and grandparents. Michael, no such thing as nothing you can do. So if you own the problem, it's called disidentification. Problem no longer owns me. I own the problem. I take responsibility for it. Maybe there's 99% I can't change a thing, but there's 1% I can change. I'm going to change the 1%. So I developed theme music to help manage my feelings because the pain was keeping me up at night. I had, at 17, I had fat pants and skinny pants because I was so bloated from this darn disease. And so theme music. Went to the library after 6 months, found that research. And the research was very aligned with faith and what I learned in martial arts. And it was like, oh, breathing skills. Oh, disidentification. I own the illness doesn't own me. So after 6 months of practicing the skills, including the pre-framing, framing, and reframing, I went 3 years with 0 symptoms. I went from 6 months of plus nasty times to 3 years with no symptoms. Graduated high school, got to college, it was good. And it was amazing. So breathing skills are part of it. Pre-framing, framing, reframing, disidentification takes practice. It's not something you can do right away because that chronic illness, it really owned me for a long time. But I can tell you, I have diabetes now. And within 2 months of getting the diagnosis, the healthcare team I'm blessed to have access to said, you're doing really well. It's like you've had it for 10 years. You're really managing it. Well, once I got the diagnosis, within 2 days, I decided I had the illness. The illness did not have me. I knew from the research that if your mommy and your grandma had diabetes, 80% chance of you getting it, even if you're eating and dieting and exercising perfectly. And if your mom and her sisters and your grandma and her sisters have it, it's over 85% chance. Well, I'm in the second category. So at 30, I started cutting down and cutting out sugar. No more donuts every week. It was more like a couple of donuts a year. No more ice cream 3 times a week. It was ice cream every couple of months. So I didn't give anything up, just moderation and minimize. So those are some things to be more resilient. Pre-framing, framing, and reframing, disidentification, identification, and breathing skills. Lots and lots of breathing skills.
All right, so amazing answer. So, can you share a success story from your coaching or training experience?
Yes, I have 2. I got a mother called me because her 5-year-old boy was going to kicked out of school because he was angry and he was acting out. Long story short, he witnessed somebody try to murder his mother. He phoned the police and saved her life in time. Well, fast forward 6 months, mommy's safe, he's safe, but the new teacher at school sounds like the person that attacked his mother. He's having flashbacks. He's yelling and screaming, having tantrums, but he doesn't know why. It's the adults that have to figure it out. And unfortunately, the school system has lots of experts to help diagnose what's wrong with him, but no skills to help him cope or get back to normal. So the mother hired me and I taught him disidentification age appropriately. I taught him 5 skills for calmness. And so with breathing skills and movement skills, turtle walking, slow racing, and some other movement skills, we got him to be calm before sleep. We got him to practice calmness before breakfast, calmness before school, calmness after school, after supper, and before bed. We really worked at getting those neural pathways, those brain circuits wired into more calming skills, because he had every right to be angry. How dare anybody attack his mother? She's a nice, safe woman. Anyways, so I get a call 3 years later. Well, first of all, it worked. No more outbursts at school. some frustrations on occasion from the teacher, according to the mother. But the teacher said, it's like a new child. So 3 years later, the mother calls me up. They're moving. I get invited for pizza and tea. And the mother said, so tell Michael what happened. And the little boy said, my teacher said I'm very good in the class before exams and tests. And he told the teacher, his friend Michael, I love it, he hadn't seen me in 3 years, and I'm his friend Michael, had taught him that belly breathing and triangle breathing and other things can help your brains come out in your test. And to put it in other words, when you're calm, you can write a better exam because you can focus. You're not in this cycle of anxiety going, oh, what's the answer? What's the answer? What's the answer? That doesn't help. Calmness helps you focus and lets out the powerful wisdom that we all have when we've been in a good class. So the teacher said, he put up his hand the first day when I said, every Thursday, I'm going to give you a little quiz to see if I'm being a good teacher and you're remembering. He helped the class practice belly breathing skills and triangle breathing skills before every class. And it's the calmest class I've ever had. And all the kids get better grades than I thought was possible. This young man is a leader. So I'm really excited about that because everybody deserves calmness to do better in school and calmness in life. It's harder to manipulate you or trick you when you're calm. So that's the child one. And then I got called to a business where there had been some workplace violence and they had a 27% absentee rate. So I did a series of 5 2.5-hour workshops for those that were in that department. And we did 2 evening seminars for 2 hours each for people that were married to or adult kids of these people. And we taught them the disidentification. We taught them pre-framing, framing, and reframing. We did a few things for skills. And we talked language because we have to watch our language. Because I can't speak for you and your family, your culture, but in my family, my culture, we had neighbors whose language was condescending. You're just a kid. What would you know? I don't know about you, but I've met 9-year-olds that were smarter than 40-year-olds. When I was 39, I had a 12-year-old neighbor that was far better with technology than I was. I paid somebody $400 to fix a computer issue. And when I had another issue a month later, the dad found out about it and sent his son over, and for 20 minutes, he fixed it. The other guy wanted $400 a game. So I know for a fact that different ages have nothing to do with how smart you are. More experience, perhaps, but age has not a lot to do with wisdom often. Anyways, so I helped that group within 5 sessions for them, 2 seminars for the family, and within 6 months, the attendance rate was better than before the act of violence. After the acts of violence, they had a 27% absentee rate. And after I came and went, they were down to below that and below the normal rate of absentee rate. So I'm really excited to teach resiliency, whether it's for technology firms, school teachers, students. Love to work with school students. I've worked with kindergarten kids, university students, communities. I work with faith groups. I work with adopted kids. You name it, they've been in my group. I even got to work with seniors, 88 and older. That was gorgeous.
So beautiful answer. Thank you so much for giving me answer. Okay, so my last question is, what advice would you give to someone who want to improve their resilience?
Excellent question. Uh, if you have access to libraries and books, read biographies and autobiographies for people and what did they go through in life. I've read some biographies and autobiographies of people I don't like, but they went through adversity and there's still things to learn. And then I read biographies and autobiographies of people I respect and like and admire that are still alive, and some of them died 200 years ago, and I learned from them. What did they do? Sometimes they built powerful teams and asked for help. Sometimes they went away and reflected and got quiet and learned things to come back and do it better. A whole host of things. Sometimes they watch, nowadays, I like to watch YouTube videos or Instagram and look at influencers that are, that are respectful of self and respectful of others. Really important. There's lots of nonsense on the internet, but there are some real gems out there. So there's a young lady who's only 6 who plays the piano by ear, and she has a musical skill set that is some of the best you'll ever see. She listens to a song, she practices for a couple of days, and at 6 years old, she does not have piano-sized hands yet. She's got baby hands still, and you should hear her play. And I look and go, wow, I will get better at piano playing. I can do better. I will practice a little more. So practice, look at the examples of others, the role models. And then if you have access to self-help books, look at self-help books that are done by people who have lots of respectful admirers. Not, isn't that person beautiful or handsome? No, that's just beauty. And that's physical attributes have nothing to do with resilience. It's what process, what skills do they teach and share? That's what makes the difference. So that's my advice.
So beautiful advice. So thank you so much, Mr. Mika, for sharing your wisdom and excited with us today. It has been a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for having. Thank you very, very so much.
Thank you. Great to be here.